What's going on, everybody? This is Lady Luck here again. All right. So, of course, we got to get it in. This is interesting to me. I heard about this because this is before I, started reporting and, talking about Novatech, the scam. And I thought it would be, I think it's a good thing to actually kind of go over, this situation, even though it happened October 13th last year, or at least it's the date that it was reported by BehindMLM, who are awesome. I actually love their articles, and the one thing I like is if they don't have information or evidence to support, their reporting or any statements they make, they will say, if it's a matter of opinion or they're expressing their own opinion, or they'll just, say, hey, we've heard this, or we, caught wind of this, but we have not been able to confirm it. I mean, that's what, good media is supposed to do. If you don't know, you don't know. Me personally, I always try my best to Google and look stuff up and research and read. So when I make a statement, about outside of my opinion for something that is factual, I try to pull it up so you guys can see that. So I think it's a good thing to kind of go over this situation to understand, where we are now and what's going on. So back in October last year, these people got into a Zoom call of some sort, and basically this lady here made the claim that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, did an audit on Novatech, and not only did an audit on Novatech, approved Novatech, and did not really expand on that. So the little girl, I don't know, why would you endorse something like that? You literally could have told this lady, what's her name, investor Heather Golden Girl Belange, I don't know, but we just gonna call her Heather B. Okay, you should not be endorsing this type of wild accusation. You want to talk about misinformation? This is it. This is the epitome of misinformation. Why would you allow anyone in a Zoom call that was recorded to say anything like this about the FBI auditing and approving your nonsense? Why in the world would you allow someone to say that crap out loud? That is not something you get in a video and record yourself affirming or confirming or anything. You should have sat there and like, I don't know what you talking about. I'll talk to you about that after this call. How about that? You could have just squashed it. What did you do? Perpetuate misinformation. Because you're a hypocrite. And you had the audacity to sit here and have your leadership or whoever the world sent that last message out talking about, I know y'all trying to put out fires. Even though she was talking to her own investors and her own cult members and the people who are true victims and just want to pull out of this. It still baffles me how you can be this hypocritical. This is misinformation, and it's dangerous misinformation. Now, will the FBI be responding to this? They have not, and they will not, because that is not what they do. They also do not audit. It's not within their purview. It's not within their scope of duties as an agency. They are the Federal Bureau of Investigations. If anyone was to audit this stupid Ponzi scheme, it would be the SEC. Maybe the FTC and FINRA. But that would not ever occur by the FBI. Why would you sit and pretend like the SEC doesn't exist to try to give credit to an agency that will never ever do anything along the lines of auditing anything that is calling itself some financial institution or hedge fund or anything dealing with stocks or securities assets, why would you not, at the very least, if you're gonna make a bold-faced lie like that, because you lie like hell. That was a lie from the pit of hell. That wouldn't be no truth in that at all, not even a little bit. So if you're gonna lie big, might as well just try to stay true to the agency that might do something like this. The FBI will never audit any company in this capacity. You're basically creating a storyline or some image or visage about something that will come back and haunt you, everybody in that call, and especially this Heather B lady. Oh yes, ma'am. It's gonna bite you in the behind to sit here and make that type of accusation, pulling in the FBI into your dumb Ponzi scheme. They don't do that. They audit nothing. They investigate. They will not ever audit anything related to trades, securities, assets, stock market. They will never audit anything like that. Now, the SEC, FTC, FINRA, those types of agencies that are designated to audit companies, I'm not even going to call this a company, Ponzi schemes like this or anything alleging to be a hedge fund or, participating in our, global trading in the stock market. They will be the ones to audit, but then they can always refer criminal charges, file criminal charges with the courts, the federal courts, and then the FBI would be the one to, add on to an investigation and aid the SEC in executing subpoenas and warrants and all of that. But no, the FBI will not audit anything remotely close to a financial hedge fund. None of that. My God. And the worst part is, you have these cult members that won't even Google this stuff. They won't even be bothered to look this up. So she endorsed this dumbass lie. And I'm going to try my best not to cuss too much. But she endorsed this dumbass lie. Affirmed that she personally received a copy of the 700-page audit. So the claim was made on September 22nd in Compounding for Wealth webinar. So this report, the article, was released on October 13th. Because I literally just said that, like, this is probably the day of the article. But yeah, the day the claim was made was September 22nd of last year. And they're sitting here talking about the FBI audit claim cleared them to do what exactly? And I don't know how someone who claims to be knowledgeable in finance is not aware of the fact that there are various types of audits that can be done. So you could have an audit for compliance, an audit for accounting. You can have an audit, for health and safety. There's several types of audits that can be done and conducted. So you not only did not expand on it, you still lied like hell. That's a bold claim to make. Please do not think that the FBI does not know that this article in that video exists, because they do. They're just not going to respond to every little thing. Stuff like this, they won't waste their time trying to respond to it. But this is a very, very bold claim to make. And a big, big, big lie that came from the pits of hell. And I don't know what demon told her that, but ooh, no. No, girl. So, I'm not very familiar or aware with this context. I kind of briefly went over this before I, started putting this video together. But, there's obviously some, and I'm assuming he's another recruiter, a promoter of this scam, Keith Walden, who came in and he joined, this Ponzi scheme because the one he was in previously had collapsed, and I guess, like always, these promoters don't know what to do when they bring people into a scam, so they just go to another scam. I mean, the scammers got to scam you, God. So, the last Q&A speaker on the webinar, Walden, claimed he and others joined Novatech after the Ponzi scheme they were in collapsed. The platform that he came from that collapsed is called Hyperfund and Hyperverse Ponzi schemes. How is that not screaming Ponzi scheme? Just by the name of it. Hyperfund and Hyperverse. That literally just screams scam. How did... Some of y'all are not too bright in this. That might be one of the reasons why it's so easy to fool you all. Not everybody, but people like him. You're not even using your brain a little bit. I honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I don't feel bad for none of these promoters that willfully knew that this was a Ponzi scheme. If he was in a previous Ponzi scheme called Hyperfund and Hyperverse, and he knew that it was a scam because it collapsed, and then he came over here to Novatech, he has some understanding of what a Ponzi scheme is. The fundamental basics of a Ponzi scheme. So he knew that he was joining another Ponzi scheme, and he probably recruited people into this nonsense, and probably will go to another Ponzi scheme after Novatech. Which is sad, because at the end of the day, you don't ever really take full responsibility for bringing people into a scam and causing them to lose their money. This is not an investment. This is a Ponzi scheme. And honestly, like I said, Hyperfund and Hyperverse just scream scam all in and of itself. And it's just, it baffles me how you did not notice that. 400% rewards. You people are trying to defy math. You're defying math. So either way, he was like, what are we going to do? Oh, okay, we're just going to join another Ponzi scheme. And I'm just kind of summing it up in my own words. And then you had some other serial Ponzi promoters, the Satoshi Show. Oh, Lord, everybody has their day in court, trust me. That promoted this Ponzi Novatech through the TSS Golden Team. So either way, the lady Heather B stated that, oh, well, that's this group, this TSS Golden Team, had an FBI investigator do a 700-page report, and they actually sent it over to Heather B, not the alleged CEO. So, first of all, Heather B, Golden Girl, they will never do an audit. 1, 2, any agency that does an audit will not give you a 700-page report for you to forward over to your CEO. They will give it directly to the CEO themselves, and preferably to the CEO's legal representation, the attorney, or the legal and compliance team. I really hope that there are no attorneys caught up in this Ponzi scheme, because they need to have their, bar license questioned. They have a horrible judgment of character. They are caught up in this Ponzi scheme, and they have a license to practice law, and they can't tell that this is just bluntly a Ponzi scheme. It's gross. It's gross. So either way, Heather B said that, and then this little girl, Cynthia, was like, yeah, I wasn't going to read that. I thought, womp, 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 report, you sent it to me. Hey, we're not a scam. Oh, no. Yes, you are. Because the FBI does not clear you of that. The FBI will investigate you, but they will not audit you. So the Heather B lady said, bottom line of the story is, after 700 pages, the FBI investigator said this is a good company to move forward with. So where's the report? I'm sorry, to the FBI, if you're watching my video, which most of you do because I tweet them straight to you. Can I get a copy of that report? 700 pages. I understand that it might be redacted a little bit, but you know, anything that could at least, you know, prove this for entertainment purposes. Because I know you will not audit anything that resembles a hedge fund or anything related to stocks, securities, assets, because I know that's the job of the SEC. But I'm just curious for entertainment value. If you may have something like that, please send Lady Luck Club a copy so that I can laugh at it. Because I know it doesn't exist. Oh my God. So, of course, this little girl, we're going to have to stop saying that because now everybody's going to ask for that report. Oh, no. Oh, no. So you did tell her to shut the hell up in so many ways. Heather B. We're going to have to stop saying that because now everybody's going to ask for that report. Guess what? Most people who are in their right frame of mind and is not caught up in this code will not ever ask you for a copy of that report. We will ask the FBI for a copy of that report. I don't believe nothing you say. You're an inveterate and habitual liar. I literally have no reason or would not ever encourage anyone else to ask her about a copy of an FBI alleged audit report that at the end of the day, if it was done, the FBI would actually have a copy of that and you could simply put in a FOIA request to get a copy of. And I'm pretty sure it will be heavily redacted. However, that's not something no one would need to go to you and ask you about. We would just go straight to the source, the FBI. So this was her way of trying to tell Heather B to shut the hell up. That's what this is. So don't come looking for that report. I burned it after I read the bottom line. What? You burned it after you read the bottom line? I was like, well, thank you for telling me what I already know. Yeah, she already knows she's being investigated. That's exactly what she knows. Now, I'm just going to throw a wild theory out here. It seems like that they could have planned to say this deliberately because she knows that she's being investigated, but probably wanted to get ahead of any information to get out that she's being investigated and then try to redirect everyone willfully, misdirect people and mislead people to believe that it was an audit that the FBI would never do, so that people, especially the diehard cult members, can just brush it off. That I'm willing to just kind of assume that. And her saying we're gonna have to stop saying that was basically her way of saying, will you shut up? Why would you say that in a video? Because your cult members that worship the ground you walk on aren't very bright. That's why. Girl, gone. So yeah, okay. Novatech solicits investment in crypto and promise of weekly passive return, blah, blah, blah. I did a full 2+ hour video of their so-called compensation plan. It is... The FBI is hireable for an audit is comical in and of itself. It is comical, very comical. I'm sure they laughed when they saw that video too. That the FBI will rubber stamp a Ponzi scheme committing securities, commodities, and wire fraud is chef's kiss. To date, Russia is the only country to have publicly taken action against Novatech. This is going back to September 22nd. Now we're May 15th, 2023, and she's acquired 3 cease orders and now a restriction to cease operations in the United States of America and Canada and Singapore, and it was another country, and I can't remember. But yeah, get your dumb scam out of our country. So I always said I never believed she was in Florida. I always said that she's not there. because even 2 cease orders is going to put you on edge. And then knowing that you're under investigation, and I've always said this, by the SEC and the FBI, that's going to put you on the run. Now, it would be wise for you to stop running. You don't have to make videos or nothing, but it would be wise of you to not run, because you're just going to make it worse for yourself. But she claims she read the FBI audit. Hilarious. That was 700 pages long. I'm just going to say this flat out. She doesn't seem like the type of person that read much of anything anyway. So, yeah, that's that. These are the members of that webinar. Here are their names. You're welcome, FBI. Also, over 60% of the victims in this scam, and some COPE members, because everybody is not a COPE member. Some people are true victims. But over 60% of them are in the U.S. So if you don't have anything going on with fresh money coming into this Ponzi scheme in the U.S., you basically collapse. That's it, because you don't have any money coming in. So, all right. That's pretty much this article here. All right, now let's go to the video. All right. So I'm going to react to this video because I want a good laugh. Y'all ready? 3, 2, 1.
No. That's what I do, guest leave. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You know what, Cynthia, that's the group that had an FBI investigator do a 700-page report. Remember I sent that to you?
Yeah,
and
I was
you were like,
read that.
you think we're going to read this 700 pages?
When you sent it to me, you were like, I said, hey, listen.
Okay, so she lied right there. She said, yeah, I wasn't going to read that. And then at the end of the conversation said that she read it. Which one is it, little girl? Did you read it or not? How do you make that type of claim? First of all, this entire claim is just outrageous. And Heather B just got you jacked up. And herself. Y'all lying like hell on the FBI. It's funny how nobody wants to sit here and actually talk about Russia's securities warnings, but they want to, as Americans, you got American citizens dousing their own U.S. government. But nobody wants to actually remind this little girl that you got a securities warning from Russia. And they done told you, we do not want to have to tell you again. Girl, bye. You done lied already in this thing. We 7 seconds in it. You done already lied. I wasn't going to read that. And then at the end, yeah, I read it and I burnt it. Girl, shut up. Girl.
Thank you.
You know what, Cynthia, that's the group that had an FBI investigator do a 700-page report. Remember I sent that to you?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, the amount of butt kissing in this is disgusting, first of all. And secondly, you got to answer to that. When you make these types of accusations, you have to answer to it. The FBI is not going to let you slide with it. They may not respond publicly because they don't need to do that. They never do. But it's going to come back up. That's a flat out lie. You just lied. God, I wish you were on those. Oh my God.
You think we're going to read this 700 pages?
When you sent it to me, you were like, I said, hey, this is a scam.
Oh God, you are a scam, you idiot. Where you at if this not a scam? Where the hell you at? Why are they talking over each other?
Read this 700 pages.
When you sent it to me, you were like, I said, hey, this is a scam. You know,
And the bottom line of that whole story is
oh, look at all these people. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 people in the Zoom call. Y'all okay with this? Are any of you people, Troy, Rahita, David, DeJong, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, David Chandler, Rachel, Hanley, Keith Walden, Marcus Davis, Bob Bearden, Heather, aka Golden something, B, Eric Brown, Donzel, Cleary. Is that Donzel or Denzel? Donzel? Donzel? Denzel? I don't know. Claire? Eugene K. Olivier Lunace? Good Lord. And Dum Dum number 1. What are you all willing to actually get in trouble with the law over these types of accusations? Most of you probably can't even handle getting a speeding ticket. I'm telling you all right now, you will have a rude awakening.
100 pages, they said yes. The investigator said this is a good company to move forward with, and so we're really happy to hear.
Stop saying that, because not everybody's going to write the report asking for that report.
Girl, Heather B, let me tell you something. This is not what you want. You do not want that. I haven't missed on anything. Everything I have said is how it's happening and unfolding. Girl, this is not what you want, Heather B. You, oh my God. This is ridiculous.
A good company to move forward with, and so we're really
This is a
happy
Ponzi
to hear.
Stop saying that, because not everybody's going to write the report asking for that report. I don't have it.
That's it. That's right.
Don't come looking for reports. I learned it once after I read the bottom line. Oh.
You read the bottom line? So you are you saying you literally wrote the last sentence of a 700-page alleged audit? You are not very bright. You understand? Look, girl, where the hell you at? Where the hell you at? You don't have the sense God gave a billy goat. Where the hell you at? I don't get this. Are you actually admitting that you've only read the very last sentence in that 700-page audit report that some alleged FBI investigator? First of all, let me just let's entertain this for 12 seconds and pretend that an FBI investigator acted alone, not on behalf of the agency, acted alone and did that. They would be fired. And then they would have had congressional hearings. And then they would have probably been investigated themselves. They will not have a job. What FBI investigator is going to put their career on the line for a damn Ponzi scheme? Who? Honestly, I'm like, if you make a accusation like that, and let's say me and several other people wanted to actually get a copy of this, we're going to go straight to the FBI. So it's not something that you could just fool everybody with. It wouldn't be difficult to get a FOIA request and get a copy. Don't you think that they would be able to put something out? At least a summary? Because no, they're not going to tell every detail of it in an active investigation. They don't do that. They don't move that way. That's not how they move. The FBI is not a social platform. They don't move like that. You can sit there and say everything you want. All they're going to do is take note of it and document it and add it on to their investigation. They're not going to put out statements or anything. They only do that when it is absolutely to a point that if they don't do it, a lot of bad things are going to happen. This nonsense right here, the FBI would never entertain you goofballs. Good Lord. It's almost scary because they worship this woman like she Jesus, and then you got the 12 dumb disciples. In my personal opinion, this is what putting somebody on a pedestal look like that don't belong there. And then got 12 dumb disciples just following and eating up her every word. The irony of it all they got to do is break bread and drink wine in this video, and then they right here. Be the Last Supper reincarnated, the dumb version. Oh my God. This is unbelievable. I cannot understand, girl, the ball sack you got on you. And it's honestly, this Heather B lady, like I said, I get the feeling that they were kind of in cahoots. And maybe she said way more than she needed to say. Or maybe that could have just been part of the plan all along. To try to put it out there like they're legitimate. But the FBI has said to please leave their name out your mouth. They don't audit anything. They investigate. And yes, they are investigating. Girl, bye. Oh, this has to be the biggest ruse I have ever seen unfold in front of my eyes. Holy crap.
After I read the bottom line, I was like, oh, thank you for telling me what I already know.
Girl, you retarded. You retarded. Let me not use that word. Girl, you are so simple. Your brain is gone. You have people like this that lie for fun. She went from one Ponzi scam to another Ponzi scam. That's the baffling part. And she did it without a thought or care in the world. I don't think she's ever apologized for the Ponzi scam with AWS mining. Whether she was a CEO or a VP, she still had a high level of executive leadership and influence. And she knew that it was a scam. You don't know the first thing about an algorithm, let alone how to solve an algorithm, to actually understand how Bitcoin or crypto is being mined. Girl, bye. Girl, bye. And you only read the last page of that report, that alleged report. Y'all burnt 700 pieces of paper. You failed to use the recycling bin. Girl, I could do this all day. All right, hold on. Ta-da! The Federal Bureau of Investigation. Welcome to the FBI website, where they are not for play. Let's take a look at what they do. This is the organizational chart. Looks good. It was done last on 2020. Good, they need to update it. So the FBI's mission is to uphold the Constitution and protect the American people, especially from scams. Little girl. Oh, Lord. Their major priorities are to protect the U.S. from terrorist attack, protect the U.S. against foreign intelligence, espionage, and cyber operations, protect the U.S. against cyber-based attacks and high-tech crimes, combat significant cyber criminal activity, combat public corruption at all levels, protect civil rights, combat transnational criminal enterprises, combat significant white-collar crimes, combat significant violent crime. So, if nothing else, the FBI is definitely investigating for significant white-collar crime, probably some level of corruption of some sort. You definitely gonna catch it for wire fraud. I mean, that's kind of a slam dunk. That is what it is. So here's what I did. I pulled this up. As you all can see, there are other major functions and stuff that they do. And I said to myself, okay, these dodo birds are claiming that they audited something. Let's see. So I went to over here. You'll see I went to finding page. I typed in the word audit. Let's see what happens. Oh no, a 0 out of 0. Oh no, who would have thought? The word audit does not even come up on the FBI's website. Girl, where you? Oh Lord, she act like she was born yesterday. Girl, little girl. The term audit does not come up anywhere on this website, on this page. And this is basically the organization mission, the mission and functions manual. And not one instance of the word audit because it's not what they do. They don't audit anything. So I had to just put that out there, go the extra step to prove it, because I can do this all day, and show you all that the word audit does not even come up on the website for the FBI. All right? They don't audit anything. They investigate. If they want an audit done, they're going to go to an accompanying agency, like depending on what the situation is. Dealing with stocks and stock markets, security assets, they will go to the SEC and say, hey, we're doing an investigation. We're wondering if you guys can do an audit. This is a alleged hedge fund with crypto trading, something, blah, blah, blah. They collaborate with other agencies for those types of tasks, because the SEC's federal laws and what they are required to uphold are not the same exact laws of the FBI, because the SEC laws are specific to certain functions pertaining to the stock market and securities assets and trading and all of that. The FBI is not going to even waste time doing something like that when they have a whole nother agency that they could collaborate with that will do that type of audit for them for their investigation. Just as much as the SEC investigating Novatech, and then FBI will collaborate by ensuring that they execute subpoenas and warrants for arrest and all that other good stuff. You know, for the criminal investigation. So, no, they don't audit anything. And I just had to prove that point and bring it home, because good Lord, if I don't even see the word audit on the FBI website, I can't take you seriously. That lie was so dumb. And if anybody really wanted to get a copy of that report, they wouldn't get it from you. They would go to the FBI. Ugh. So real quick, I wanted to touch on this report that came up May 3rd. This right here, good Lord, is probably what I think what led to the actual cease order from the OSC, which is the Ontario Securities Commission. Now, here's my thing. They were given a summons to appear for a regulatory hearing, and they failed to show. When they were served the summons, it was noted that the address, whatever the last known address they had it at, that it was rejected. Now, I don't know if the dumb Petions were the ones that rejected it, or maybe someone else that lives at that address rejected it. But I highly doubt that, if it was a whole different person at that residence, I highly doubt that the OSC would not make mention of that in their order to say, we tried to serve them with a summons, and we discovered that they no longer resided at residence, and the persons that lived there verified their identity. It wasn't them. So, boom. But the fact that they did not mention that, you can safely assume that they were the ones, the Petions they attempted to serve the Petions. And they dumb behinds actually rejected the summons, as if rejecting a summons clears you from not having to attend the hearing. This regulatory hearing is not a traffic ticket type of ordeal. This isn't traffic court. This is a federal regulatory hearing. When was that ever optional? What the OSC should have done was issue a bench warrant. They really should have did that, because they knew that they were going to violate the cease order. But the fact that you're so bold and brazen to not even attend a regulatory hearing, I can't take none of your dumb scam promoters and cult members that kiss your butt seriously when they turn around and proclaim that they're Christians and yet think that somehow laws don't apply to everybody. because they don't want to be held to the same standard as everyone else in the United States of America or in Canada, or anything pertaining to securities laws in general. You're being alleged with securities fraud. You're being investigated for securities fraud. If you were doing something legitimate, why would you not want to go and defend yourself and defend the dumb crap you're doing? I'll tell you why. Because you know it's a Ponzi scheme. Because you know that there's no trading. You know there's no proof of trading. You know that the cryptos you throw people around trying to give out like M&Ms, like candy, are absolutely worthless. I literally Googled BTCHD. It's now worth 6 pennies, not 8. 6 cents to the dollar. You know that none of those crypto coins would have any value to it whatsoever outside of Novatech. That's the disgusting part. The fact that you got a summons for a securities fraud hearing in Ontario, and you thought, okay, well, I just reject the summons, and then decided not to go. I guess thinking in your mind that if I reject the summons, then that means I'm not liable. What the heck is wrong with you? You simpleton. Are you kidding me? This is the nonsense that why would anyone want to defend this type of behavior? For her to be so bold and brazen, and her dumb husband and dumb brother to not show up for a regulatory hearing on the accusations or allegations of securities fraud, they actually have enough evidence to prove that you are committing securities fraud simply because you're not registered with any commissions, exchange commissions, to do anything with securities assets. That in and of itself is a direct violation of the U.S. federal securities laws, as well as Canada's and most countries that you sat here and tried to pull this Ponzi scam on. Russia was not having it. So, you know, I don't know if you outrunning them or what, but whatever. If they get you, they gonna get you. I don't understand what you running for. But either way, the boldness in this, you know, for you to fail to make an appearance. But am I shocked? No. You know why? Because she had lawsuits that she failed to appear for that was named in those CISA. She had about 3 lawsuits. Dumb husband had one. And they failed to appear for lawsuits. Civil lawsuits. So I don't expect them to cooperate willingly when it comes to a federal regulatory hearing for violations of a federal crime, for violations of securities laws. You're not only committing securities fraud, but you're also committing wire fraud. And that's open and shut. It's very easy to prove that. I've already told you all, criminal defense attorneys don't like having to defend these types of cases because it's so open and shut. I mean, the evidence is just blatant, obvious between your videos and Zoom calls and all this other stuff. Any electronic communications where you're promoting a scam will be used as evidence of wire fraud. That's why none of your dumb, stupid disclaimers that your stupid promoters keep putting out there thinking that they doing something with that is going to have any standing or any base or any defense in a court of law. That's not a predicate or a parameter that's used to actually charge someone with wire fraud. It's not one of the 4 parameters. And I went over that charge in depth. I mean, researching on the Department of Justice website and other websites, even from the financial sector, like in Investopedia. Reputable websites that are just repeating accurate information from the Department of Justice. Our laws still stand. It's irrelevant to whether you like them or not. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. They exist. You can't go to court saying all that nonsense that y'all saying in these dumb videos. You can't go in there talking about a FUD and you a hater to the federal judge. Oh no. Good luck to that. If you do, you will be held in contempt of court. just for decorum. But you cannot get in there talking about, oh, it's just negative, it's so negative in the FUD and a something blah, womp, womp, womp. That's all the judge gonna hear, womp, 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 womp. And then they're gonna be like, okay, are you done? All right. So either way, there's enough evidence to charge you and find you guilty of wire fraud. The jury is definitely going to rule against you because you cannot undo securities fraud. You cannot undo wire fraud. And I love the fact that BehindMLM stated that in their article, regarding the restrictions with the U.S. It's so profound because you can't undo it. It's been done, and it was done intentionally and willfully. So you can't even say that you weren't aware you were committing securities fraud or wire fraud. A person who may not be aware of it, once they learn that they're doing that, will usually stop because they don't want to get in any legal trouble. But no, it's not just all the things you've done with this Novatech scam. It's also the things you did from AWS mining. It shows a pattern of behavior. So all of the nonsense she did with that and the exit collapse scam with that AWS mining nonsense, it's just basically history going to repeat itself. And then she's going to try to take Novatech, rename it, and keep doing the same old Ponzi scheme in some other country or somewhere else. And guess what? You're not going to get away with it. You're just not. Y'all can hang that up. When we say cease operations here, that means stop being in effect. And operations within your so-called organizational construct or operations that the functions that are performed in this so-called business. That includes recruitment. That includes, issuing out payments. Anything that is considered a function of operations within this stupid Ponzi scheme should come to a halt. If they do not bring it to a halt and cease immediately, they're violating the cease orders. Period. You're still breaking the law. You're not above it, and you're not above reproach. And I already told y'all, if it came down to it, and she's faced with federal prison time, she's going to throw every single one of you all underneath the bus, even if that includes her dumb husband and brother. Y'all better watch a documentary or a report on Sam Bankman-Fried, because that same exact thing happened to him. His girlfriend and his best friend or close colleague or whatever, he made co-partner in another subcomponent of FTX. Both of them flipped on him. Both of them. And they might still go to prison, but they did it to cooperate to get their time reduced. Because no one wants to go to federal prison. Just like that Joshua Nicholas boy proved. Got sentenced to 51 months, and already he's only been there probably 6 months. 5 months, 6 months. And he's already saying, this is not for me. Trust me, she is not going to want to go to prison. So she will cooperate. And it will be at the expense of all of you. And that's just, it's not hard to detect that. She don't mind coming at you all now and messages talking about you all need to stop the spread of misinformation. Because this stuff right here, the legal documents don't lie. You can't make this up if you wanted to. This is just too nutty. It's just too crazy to make up. So they failed to make the appearance for this regulatory hearing, because stupid people do stupid things. And it says here it's unclear why the courier delivery was refused, but they were aware of this hearing and they just deliberately chose to not show up. So this is just another added measure to show their character and their boldness in sending out this message that they are above the law. They are above reproach. They don't have to show up for hearings for regulatory hearings for securities fraud, which are federal violations. Yeah, in their mind, they don't think they have to attend those hearings. for some reason. So it's just kind of like, if you're okay with this nonsense and her behavior, I can't take you seriously when you talk about, especially when you talk about being a Christian, or, you know, saying that people have been helped with this. How often do you see legitimate investment companies get cease and desist orders, summoned to a regulatory hearing because you should not have been doing anything in Canada, but you get summoned to a hearing, you not only refuse the summons from the carrier, but then you fail to show for the regulatory hearing? How often do you see legitimate companies and legitimate investors and CEOs do all this nonsense? This is ridiculous. This is not something people should be perpetuating. This is not a moment of giving her kudos or anything. This is, if nothing else, should be a reminder that you are in deep, deep trouble, and all of the evidence against you is just stacking up. You don't have the luxury to say you're not going to go to a regulatory hearing for securities fraud. Are you kidding me? Don't think that that's not going to come back on you. So you guys can read this, article in detail behind MLM. It's fantastic. You can also read the enforcement so far that have been taking the cease orders from California and Wisconsin. And then, of course, you have the cooperator with Joshua Nicholas. He got his own scam he was charged, and found guilty of. And he's cooperating. And I don't blame him. I mean, this is ridiculous. If he had any ties to Novatech, and he has information that was obviously proven to be, highly useful, to have an unobjected order granted to him to reduce his prison time, you are in big, big trouble. You small gal. Hold on. So if you guys check this out of here, this is the latest, the decision that came from the OSC in Canada. This is for the citation. I mean, they gave them opportunities after opportunity. They were supposed to do a hearing by video conference March 2nd. Oh, no. This was, they had the opportunity to do a video conference on March 2nd of this year. No one appearing for Novatech Ltd. You all see that, right? So, Brian Weingarten for staff of the OSC. No one appeared for Novatech. So they didn't go to the regulatory hearing last year. And they did not attend the this follow-up, the reasons for decision or whatever for the OSC on March 2nd. And this was by video conference. They didn't have to travel anywhere. They could have just hopped on a Zoom call. So this is the, in detail, the reasons for decision, where they basically extended the temporary order, the fact that they're not cooperating, and the fact that the OSC has, a treasure trove of evidence to prove securities fraud and wire fraud in and of itself. I mean, it's hard to dispute. So, they cite a couple of other laws in here and other resources. I'm assuming that they have some case law cited in here as well, which is vital if you really want to understand from a legal perspective, how the laws are enforced and applied in some of these court cases. You could literally have 5 cases in federal court with the same charge, but they still have some variation that makes them uniquely different. It could be based on the severity of the charge itself. It could be based on the amount of money that was stolen. It could also be based on just the amount of evidence and sworn statements from, people coming forth, and willing to provide a statement against Novatech and these dumb petions. Interviews that are conducted, it varies based on a few factors, but you could literally have five cases with the same charge of securities fraud. And depending on all those factors, you'll see how the law is applied, the punishment that really should fit the crime, but the punishment that's given might be different. Everybody doesn't always get the same number of years in prison. There are a lot of factors that can cause that to fluctuate. So it's highly encouraged for you guys to read case law so you can see exactly, how these laws are being applied in these, cases, even if they have the same charges, and what the outcome could possibly, be rendered in these cases. So I think my personal opinion is, based on case laws that I've read, and I'm talking about large Ponzi schemes that between Charles Ponzi and Bernie Madoff and Enron and what's that bank run that happened? Credit Suisse, that the chick with Theranos, of course, FTX with Sam Bankman-Fried. Those are just to name a few. But the case laws that I've read, that's why I say the things that I say as far as what the outcome could be. Because more than likely, with her having been perpetuating the scam for almost 5 years, so you have, a bit of history with that. I mean, Bernie Madoff pretty much told you all to hold my beer, because his was over 20. But with this nonsense carrying on for almost 5 years, there's no telling how many people were scammed, how many victims you have, and how much money was really taken, in this Ponzi scheme, and the overall damage of it all. But I'm foreseeing that they will definitely get some prison time. Now, how much of that they get, it depends on the evidence and all of the other factors that I previously mentioned. Plus, I think at the end of the day, she doesn't want to go to prison. I guess she thinks she's too good for that, because she thinks she's too good to show up for a regulatory hearing. So she's not going to want to go to prison, because, she's obviously, when it comes to the law, she's a coward. You, your dumb husband, and your brother, little girl, all three of you dumb stooges, you're cowards. You are literally proving that none of this is credible or legitimate when you're not even trying to defend it. You literally failed to show up for the hearing last year and a video conference hearing back on March 2nd. Girl, ugh. So you guys can look this up. I literally researched this, and I found this on the OSC website. I told you guys, a lot of these legal court documents, you can pull up copies of it. It's a matter of transparency, to be honest. So at the end of the day, they ruled to extend the cease order, and I'm hoping that the next step would be for enforcement action to take place. Basically, okay, they violated the cease order. Now we have to appeal to the courts to say they are in contempt of the cease order because they violated it, so they should be held in contempt of the court order. And hopefully a judge, signs a warrant to have their asses collected and taken to Canada. We have an extradition treaty with Canada. I think if the situation calls for it, the U.S. will not have a problem giving her up. Now, it depends on where the SEC and FBI is with their investigations, where they may say, okay, we will help you bring them people in for you all's hearing, but when we get ready to drop criminal charges and we want to have a hearing in the U.S. in our federal courts of law, we want them back. So there could be some arrangement made to where the U.S. cooperates to help find them, because don't nobody know where they at, because I know they hiding. But the U.S. will aid in finding them, send them on off to Canada, answer to the charges, that they do have a warrant issued and criminal charges are filed because they are in contempt of that court order, the cease order, and they're continuing, with securities fraud and wire fraud, especially that stupid promoters. And they'll be, given a hearing, a trial there, whatever. And when the U.S. is ready to do their trial, then Canada sends them back here. And they may reach an agreement to where they either are housed here in our U.S. federal prisons or in Canada. I think more than likely it would be the U.S. because I think that this is actually their country of residence. So this is just a good read if you want to check out what's going on with that. But none of this is for play. I don't know why anybody would think that this is optional. It's not. And all you're doing, little girl, is helping the prosecutors and the investigators to build up a better case against you, because they see that your behavior, it does not show that you're willing to defend or cooperate in the least bit unless you are charged and you're facing prison time. That's the only way she's gonna learn. And then no one is in the mood to see her go from AWS mining, which is a Ponzi scam, to Novatech, another Ponzi scam, and then try to rename this to a totally different Ponzi scheme. No one's in the mood for that. No, ma'am. And your dumb promoters need to stop encouraging you to do that. Hold on. I'm going a little backwards here, but this was the notice of hearing for March 2nd. This was the application that the OSC filed for an extension of the temporary order that they had against Novatech. So you guys can see here, file number 2023-6 in the matter of Novatech Ltd. Notice of hearing. This is basically a proceeding to the application for the extension of the temporary order. The hearing date was on March 2nd, 2023 at 10 a.m. by video conference. So they literally had no excuse to not attend it. They actually think they're above the law. And as you can see here, the purpose of this proceeding is to consider whether the Capital Markets Tribunal should grant the application filed by staff of the commission, meaning the people who work at the OSC, to extend the temporary order issued by the commission on February 16, 2023. Basically, you have representation. Any party to the proceeding may be represented by a representative at the hearing. Basically, you have the right to legal representation or have a representative on behalf of the party, whether you be the petitioner or the defendant. As you can see, failure to attend, right here, failure to attend. So, if party does not attend, the hearing may proceed in the party's absence, and the party will not be entitled to any further notice in the proceeding. So, whatever they decided they wanted to do, guess what? Your dumb cult leader was not there to try to defend it or to provide any explanation of it. She's basically like, I'm just going to let this happen. Because they don't have to give you any additional time to determine whether or not you're going to actually attend a hearing on securities fraud. They're not going to do that. They're just going to do what they need to do and keep moving forward based on their regulations and laws, and their policies within that agency. So she didn't show up. It was a video conference, and she could have easily just logged on. I mean, come on now. No one's above the law. Look, girl. Yeah, like I said, I'm going backwards. But this is the actual order issued on March 2nd. Now, I told you all in one of my previous videos that they knew before March 2nd that they were going to be getting a notice or getting this cease order. They knew that. And here's how. Whereas on March 2nd, 2023, the Capital Markets Tribunal held a hearing by video conference to consider the application filed by enforcement staff of the Commission to extend the temporary order issued by the Commission on February 16th. The order was issued February 16th. She knew this was coming down the pipeline. She knew the one from Wisconsin was coming down the pipeline too. So she can't say she did not know, because they give you a heads up. Because they want you to have the opportunity to defend yourself. So if you pull a stunt like she did, her and her dumb husband and brother thinking they too good to show up for a regulatory hearing, knowing that they're being accused. And let's just face it, they have evidence of securities fraud against Novatech. It is what it is. But the fact that they just thought they didn't have to show up for it, not just that hearing, but the actual extension hearing as well. I mean, come on. Come on. All you're doing is just making it harder for yourself, little girl. Making it harder for yourself. So you can see here that the materials filed by staff, and on hearing the submissions of the representative for staff, no one appearing for Novatech Ltd, although properly served, as appears from the affidavits of Rita Pascuzzi, Pascuzzi, I don't know if I'm saying that right, affirmed on February 24th and February 28th. So it seems like they tried to serve them twice. It is ordered for reasons to follow that until the earlier of 1, 10 days after the issuance of a statement of allegations naming Novatech as a respondent, or 2, 6 months after the issuance of this order. So basically this is going to be in effect from 6 months after this order was issued on March 2nd. So 6 months is going to cover 6 months. The extension itself covers an additional 6 months. If that's how I'm reading it correctly. Yeah, 6 months after the issuance of this order. Okay. Yep. So they're not gonna respond. This is the whole order here that was issued March 2nd. Like I said, these legal court documents are available for people to, you can Google research on the OSC website, and just kind of, they have a whole order. Here's the file number, is 2023-6, and you can pull it up by name or by the order number or the file number or case number, and check this out. So I hope that you guys understand why it's imperative that you see full picture how they're conducting themselves from a legal stance, and how they're ruining their own lives. No, it's not a matter of anybody not wanting them to succeed. They don't want to succeed. They don't want to succeed. If they felt that they were doing something legitimate and that they're not running a Ponzi scheme, they would have gone to the hearings. They would have been on that video conference. They would have cooperated and followed the cease orders. First of all, they wouldn't have cease orders. Let's just go with that. Let's start with that. No legitimate company gets cease orders. They got 3. So let's start with the fact that they would not even be in this situation if they were doing things legitimately and the right way. But the fact that they had opportunity after opportunity after chance to go in and defend this nonsense Novatech in a regulatory hearing where they're being accused of securities fraud, and I'm sure wire fraud, but this is strictly securities fraud. The fact that they failed to even show up for the hearings goes to show that they're not fighting to defend or protect anything or anyone. They're on the run because these cowards think that it's easier to just run away from all this than to actually face head on something that you claim to be a company that you stand behind, and I'm the representation of this. Yeah, you are. And yet you're a coward who can't show up for a hearing. Girl, you are the worst. And I know you watch my videos. I know you do. That's why you ain't said nothing. Because I ain't missed nothing yet. I ain't missed. So does the SEC and the FBI. They see my videos too. You guys have to see in context all of this information, all of the documentation and evidence building up against them. The U.S. could easily pull and retrieve these legal documents. If they want to get legal certified copies of it, guess what? They'll contact the OSC and the SEC investigators, the FBI investigators, and say, hey, we need, some, official copies of these orders and everything to add on to our case. And they will use this. They will. Bottom line. That's why it does not behoove her to keep running, because you ain't doing nothing. You completely just, it's a disservice to the victims that got caught up in this nonsense, that are wondering how they're gonna get their money back, let alone see that you're not fighting at all with any of this, with the securities fraud, with the orders. You're not fighting any of this, and yet you all keep kissing her butt, talking about, oh, she doesn't have to say anything. She doesn't have to show the FBI audit that she alleged she got and was cleared with. When you lie like that, yes you do. Because the FBI sure gonna ask, who told you that what investigator did this audit? Who told you that we even do that? Well, no, that wasn't me. Guess what she gonna say, Heather B, Golden Girl, whatever your name is. Guess what your dear cult leader gonna say? I didn't tell them to do that. I didn't tell them to get this. I didn't tell them to reach out to the FBI to do an audit. They decided to do that on their own. I even said in the Zoom video that they need to stop saying that. You know, that's how I meant it. Trust me, she will throw you underneath the bus, woman, and she will not care. So, I hope all of this in context, you guys understand why this is a Ponzi scheme. She's not even fighting these charges. She's not fighting legally the right way these accusations. She's not defending it. I'm almost wondering if she does have an attorney. I'm curious, because I can't see how you got an attorney and you think you don't have to show up for regulatory hearings or abide by cease orders. And you got 3 of them. Now you're restricted from doing anything in the United States of America. All operations of this dumb Ponzi scheme cult needs to come to a halt. If it does not, you will be in contempt of the cease orders and in further violation of our securities law, because you're operating illegally as a Ponzi scheme. And let me help you guys out. Please understand that when you're looking at a Ponzi scheme and the structure of a Ponzi scheme, if you were to take this stupid Novatech nonsense, remove all the fluff out the way, meaning remove the aspect of cryptocurrencies being traded, the platform, the PAM accounts. If you remove all of that out the equation, what you're left with is the very basic foundation of a Ponzi scheme. Whether they have real crypto or not, or a real trading platform or not, or that fake website, or those fake accounts that you guys think have money in it or reflect anything feasible regarding a balance, because it doesn't. If you remove all of that out the equation, the only way this Ponzi scam thrives and survives is if you have a fresh influx of new money coming in to pay your old investors, including herself. And remember, Ponzi schemes are not designed to benefit everybody. They're only designed to benefit the people at the top. The money only flows up. If you come into a Ponzi scheme, you might get a couple payments. It's a bait tactic. It's to bait you in. It's to get you to believe that this is real. Charles Ponzi himself did this very same thing. All of these Ponzi schemes do that same exact thing, where they pull people in, they get you hooked and swindled because they're willing to give you a couple payments, so they let you think that this is real somehow. Nobody thinks to Google. Nobody thinks to look anything up. Nobody even thinks to question her about her offshore accounts and where she had her money at. Nobody thinks to do any of that. Nobody thinks to say, you know what, that's a good question. Where is that FBI alleged audit? Fake audit. The audit, that big lie you told about an audit. Where that at? Show it. Let us see the last sentence that you claim you read. 700 pages of that. You all really think they would send that over? Especially when they have an open investigation? If you get anything, it's going to be heavily redacted. The FBI does not move like that. That's not how they operate. But if you take all of that stuff out the way, what you're left with is a traditional Ponzi scheme. New money coming into the pyramid paying old investors or current investors. And that's it. You get 2-3 good payments or whatever. It's definitely going to be small, chump change. And then that's pretty much it. You're told to continue to reinvest this and all this other stuff. Legitimate investment companies don't tell you to do that. They let you decide if you want to reinvest your earnings, your ROI, or if you want to withdraw it. If you have the type of account that you can withdraw out without penalty, they're not going to tell you no. Because the money coming into this should not solely be based on what's recruited from new victims coming in, losing their money. So, remove the crypto nonsense, the trading platform, remove all of that out the way, and what you have is a Ponzi scheme. And like I said, the FBI and the SEC sure got a whole lot to go on. And I'm sure they have copies of all of this already, as well as the video. And yeah, this is ridiculous. This goes to show what she really stands for. That's why the cease orders mention her previous lawsuits and bankruptcies and all of that, because this is who her and her dumb husband and brother are. They're scammers. They're swindlers. They're thieves. And they don't have the ability to defend this Ponzi scheme or themselves whatsoever. When they're presented with the opportunity to attempt to defend themselves, they fail every single time.